The following is a presentation of Stewed Productions.
Hey guys, it's your old buddy Josh here again, welcoming you into another episode of this fine podcast. If you find yourself enjoying this show, well then perhaps you'd like to help support this show. This show in particular shows an advantage of not being able to go places, so we get to bring more guests to us, and we are not hemmed in by geography. So when we get to this episode in just a moment that you may or may not want to support, you will hear that my guest will be one Jeffrey Stuffings from Jester King. So if you enjoy hearing about all the great craft beer goings-ons in Houston, and this is the beyond part, yes, and beyond, you can help support the podcast by going to patreon.com/InterBrews or interbrews.com/Patreon. This is a long-winded way of saying that for as little as $1 an episode, you can help support this podcast. And I know that a lot of us, myself included, have come across some hard times lately with all of this rigmarole, which we will discuss with Jeffrey here in a bit. So if, obviously, if you cannot, please just enjoy the show. Pass it along to a friend. But if you are in a place where you can support and you choose to do so, I greatly appreciate it. We're getting close to some new goals, and one of those is to add video to this show. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you enjoy the show, if you like to support what we're doing here with InterBrews, our Patreon page, either click the link on our website or again, patreon.com/InterBrews. Enough of me. Let's get on to the show. This is InterBrews. Hey everybody, Josh here. Welcome to another episode of InterBrews. One of the advantages to the end of the world is that it gives everybody more time and an excuse to bring in guests that normally I would have to make a special trip for, so they don't happen as often. But now, nobody can be around anybody, so why not open up the world? So Jeffrey Stuffings, hello, sir, from Jester King. Welcome to InterBrews again.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
It's been a while, but really, I'm looking at these episodes that we're doing now as John Holler from Holler Brewing helped me, gave me the epiphany that this is ongoing audio history being recorded within the event. And so I just want to make sure that I talk to people, that history will show we're a big part of the Texas and beyond craft beer scene. So thanks for making some time for InterBrews and for chatting with me today. So
yeah, my pleasure.
Cool. Well, first of all, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. Kind of adjusting to a new normal. The kind of initial shock, if you will, is kind of starting to wear off a little bit. Where now it's kind of adjusting to where we kind of go from here, and what our brewing business and restaurant business looks like for the next weeks, and then after that, trying to figure out how things may look in the months ahead.
Yeah, I've probably said it enough between this show and Liquid Lunch, our live streaming show, which we're doing more episodes of that as well, just for a plug there. But there's three stages to conversation since this thing started. One, it's the gauge where you're at. Two people start talking, and it's like, okay, we both are on the same page that things have gone completely nuts. Two, get into some distraction talk for however long that can go. What are you watching? What have you been doing? While under quarantine, all that kind of stuff. And then three, what happens next? And so, that's. I don't know if that'll. I don't know. It seems to be playing out every YouTube channel I watch or every podcast I listen to. Those seem to be kind of, and every conversation I have with people over the phone just seems to be, those three stages of conversation. So.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's the way I'm observing it. But I think it goes people in the know or people in the now, hopefully for the people in the future, 100 years from now. I was actually just watching Amazon. This is a quick plug for distraction time and just to further learning. Amazon Prime has America in Color, this series of, I think, over the last 100 years of just American history. And they started with the 1920s, so right at 100 years ago this year. And they show, one, that's right when Prohibition started. And I was like, oh, that's kind of eerie. And then all the things that, happened in 1920 and the big changes, the Model T, the assembly line, all the things that Ford was doing that absolutely changed the way America lived. Lindbergh making the transatlantic flight, these things that just opened up the possibilities, and then Prohibition. And I'm like, maybe I'm just reading the parallels into it, but it's like we've entered into it is a government mandated prohibition of commerce, So,
right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it's interesting you mentioned that time period. I mean, I've been trying to read more about kind of the Spanish flu epidemic from 1918, 1919, and kind of, how society emerged from that, dealt with it in the time period, and then emerged from it as well, and trying to kind of glean some insights there. And then, oh gosh, sorry, I just kind of lost my train of thought riffing on that for a second, but yeah, certainly, that parallel I think is relevant.
Yeah, it's I can't help but think, I never got into The Walking Dead all that much, but as it evolved as a show, at the beginning, there's zombies, and then after a few episodes, you're like, okay, zombies, but what about the character development? And zombies don't have a lot of character development; they're just kind of the thing. Right. And so now that's like COVID-19 is kind of the zombies, it's like it's in the background. It's happening. It's affecting people in big ways. But it's all the other, like the human element of how we deal with what was and what's now, and in the brewing industry and in, it's all businesses, but especially since we're immersed in the brewing industry, it's that's our story. Right. So.
Right.
How people are dealing with it. So, Jeff, how are you dealing with it?
Sure. We're dealing with it, primarily by keeping going in terms of brewing, and we've definitely scaled down our schedule. I would say our schedule is roughly half of what it was. I would say we only have maybe 10, and we're a brewery that doesn't brew every day anyway. We brew once or twice a week. So now we're probably brewing once a week. So if you look at our schedule in April and May, we're doing, 8 batches of beer for the next 2 months, which is, for a small brewery like us, still not very much. And then what's unfortunate for a number of reasons is that, draft is pretty much gone. Mm-hmm. We're filling a couple kegs here or there so that we can do crowlers to go or to have as backstock, when the day eventually comes that we can, reopen to the public. But everything's being put in, bottles or cans, cans being kind of a new thing for us. That was something we just started to do, literally in early February, shortly before this all hit. So that's a big change. Another way we're dealing with it is, still being open for curbside pickup of, food and beer. We operate as a brewery, bakery, and restaurant. And the restaurant side, we're pretty much scaled down to doing, pizzas and salads to go. The bakery side has been interesting. That's the one area of business where we have seen an uptick. We're selling more bread than we did before the crisis. And then on the beer side, we've just been really all in for years on the on-site experience and, being a destination brewery of sorts and, trying to attract people to come out here and, share the community we've created out here with their friends and family. And, that being gone is been an enormous shock to our system, where, the whole place right now, aside from our, brewing beer and doing curbside pickup, is totally dormant. I'm sitting out in our little courtyard by the brewery right now, and granted it's a Tuesday morning, people wouldn't be here right now anyway, but still, just seeing this place just eerily silent is just just bizarre. Yeah, definitely that kind of, post-apocalyptic feel to it.
and the fact that it's actually Wednesday, and it doesn't matter that you said Tuesday because they're all the same.
Good. Yeah. Yep. There you go. Yeah. Perfect. Exactly.
I had to think about it. You said Tuesday. I was like, oh, is it Tuesday? I had to go check because it's like they just all meld together now.
Yeah. Oh no. Then the other thing, we're busy on right now is which is obviously applies to a lot of businesses right now, is trying to obtain relief from the government. We've applied for both the SBA 7A loan, the payroll protection plan, as it's known, from the part of the CARES Act. That has been, just reading the articles on how that plan is going so far. It's just scary, the amount of just overloading in the system that appears to be happening right now.
Yeah.
And then we also applied prior to the CARES Act. We applied to the SBA for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL. We were able to speak to a human at the SBA yesterday, and we're told to expect at least 2 or 3 more weeks before that application will be processed. It's kind of in this kind of holding pattern right now to kind of see, if relief comes and what it looks like.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all those programs, like especially the new ones where there's no experts. Like, is the ink's not even dry, on a lot of this stuff. So it's like, my wife owns a business as well, and it's like, you got to talk to a human. That's a huge step forward. They probably know, I don't know, 2% more than you do because there's not much to be known. So it's just, it's a wild process.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the SBA rep we spoke to yesterday was just basically like, we got your application and we'll probably get to it in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. So that was about all the info we got. Yeah.
So on the curbside pickup, how is that working? Like, for those of us who have been to Jester King and know the layout, how are you doing that? Do you have like because y'all have a pretty big walk up to the tap room and all that kind of stuff. Are you keeping people in their cars, or are you letting people get out and take in the beautiful scenery there? Or how's that going?
Yes, as tempting as it is to want to allow people to walk around, we're on 170 acres and we have trails, and we despite that want to, we are requiring people to stay in their cars. We have signs up to, as you pull in, to stay in your car, and then it's kind of like the cell phone lot at the airport. Like when you get your text, pull on up and roll down your window or pop your trunk, and the order will fulfill your order. We have an online ordering system that's functioning now 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So that's another bizarre thing, is that people, at least for pickup, people can now buy our beer around the clock and then show up 7 days a week to pick it up. So that's real weird and different from us and for us, and will probably be one of those things that we will keep. Now that we've gone through the process of trouble of starting an online ordering business, I don't see that going away. So I'm curious to see what things that get launched by breweries during this phase that don't recede when things eventually establish or get back to more or less how they were. Another thing we're looking at is in Texas law, hamstrings us as far as direct shipping. We can't, if I wanted to, send beer in the mail or deliver beer to someone in Austin, it's illegal. But there's, other states where the laws are better. And like, for instance, like we set up the state, the place where they're really the best is Washington State. And so now, like, through an intermediary, Fair Isle Brewing in Washington, Seattle, we can ship beer direct to people's doorsteps in Washington State. And we're working on trying to open up other states. Sadly, it's going to, Texas will probably not be on that list because of our beer laws, but we are, if we are successful in, we already are successful shipping to Washington residents. And if we're successful in opening up other states, that's another thing where, like, I don't necessarily see that going away.
Yeah, it's that's one thing I'm looking at all of that. You see a lot of the telecommuting and the video conferencing and things like that. Like just becoming more normal. It was already there, but now people are forced to use it and they're getting better at it and more, it's one of those things where, okay, are the business trips where you just meet with somebody just for an excuse to take a trip, how much more of that can be justified and things like that. But yeah, like the online ordering and all of that. Yeah, I think we'll see a big leap forward in a lot of that. Yeah, I'm interested. Yeah. And another thing I was thinking, so you can speak to this. Y'all have so much room, 170 acres. The way a dining room is laid out, table spacing and all that kind of stuff, perhaps that changes a bit.
I absolutely think so. I was reading an article on, Chinese restaurants in Beijing reopening, and it was saying that they're limited to like 3 people per table, and that they've removed tables. My guess is that you'll see in the coming months something like that in Texas, where restaurants can reopen to the public, but with limited capacity, spacing between tables, and then limits on number of people per tables. On the one hand, we've been very hard hit by this, like a lot of folks, due to bringing people out to our space being such a huge component of our business. The flip side, though, I think, is that when we do reopen, we'll be able to manage, I think, fairly well, because we can really, spread people out, and probably, we're talking about simple stuff, but I think that will be helpful, like just having a little cart that goes around to people's table, and not having people queue up or gather up as much, and just kind of making it kind of a big kind of picnic environment, versus just a beer hall environment, which we kind of have been before.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion, and history may prove me wrong on this one, but this is the ushering in of everything looking like Star Wars, because you got the stormtroopers and everybody wearing masks, so that's now happening. And then you'll have droids bringing drinks to people in the cantina. So we may, other than the the hyperdrives and things like that, I think, and laser guns, we're probably entering the Star Wars era of America. But we'll figure that out. We'll see how this ages.
That's good. I'm trying to.
So, okay, I listened to your interview, or watched your interview with Brewbound, which is available, wherever you watch, on YouTube and all those places. So everybody go watch that. But you mentioned just a few minutes ago about the bakery side. Actually the uptick, because bread is hard to come by. Have you looked at any other possible add-ons with you are in a very unique situation given your space and where you are, and the fact that you are a working farm and everything. I know eggs have been really hard to come by. Other thing, have you looked at any of that type of thing, like more farm food type stuff?
Well, the short answer is like no. But I mean, we have we're growing our. This is not really related to the COVID crisis, but more just our plan anyway was to start milking our goats as our herd grows to make cheese. We don't have any poultry on site, so unfortunately no eggs being no egg production. Grapes, hops, and goats are like our 3 main focuses right now. So, with perennial plants, it's a little bit less helpful, like in a time of crisis. So our farm isn't doing a lot on that front right now, unfortunately. But I guess where we've been able to help a little bit, not so much farming related, but our kitchen. Since now we're really, really scaled down and not having to carry as much inventory, we've been able to open up a grocery for our out of our kitchen. So, we have, not like your supermarket list of goods, but we have oils and vinegars and rice and bread and stuff like that. So some stuff that that can be a little hard to find right now. So and then also just kind of like stuff that isn't your kind of run of the mill cooking ingredients either. So some kind of cool artisan stuff. So I would say outside of our normal business, that's kind of been like the new thing that has come online, is the grocery.
That's cool. I'll say this: when you go out to Jester King, and I look for, so here's okay. So first, I'll just say that when you go out there, it inspires you to want to cook and do things with your hands, and I don't know. There's an inspiration with the land and the beer and all of that. You want to go. It's like, I'm going to go make my own bread. I don't know how or something. I want something that's natural. I want something that's not prepackaged, shipped in from wherever. It's you want something closer to the earth. So I'm glad that that's there, because I can, the next time I'm there, I can capitalize on that inspiration and take it with me and go.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
But I will say, for anybody in Texas, or gosh, even if you're outside of in Texas, staying in your car is still being isolated, and it would be very therapeutic to take a drive, even from Houston or San Antonio or even Dallas, to go pick something up at Jester King. I mean, it's a day, but what else you got going on? Like for me, it'd be a 2.5 hour drive from my house. I can justify taking 6 hours of my day.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I would say, for people, heading to making a little Central Texas beer run, I mean, obviously I encourage people to come here, but there's a lot of other really good breweries that are doing curbside right now. So I would say, swing through the hill country right now. It's like the best time of year to drive through the hill country, because the bluebonnets are out and other wildflowers. And so, in fact, Easter Sunday, ordinarily we'd, have, dinner at my in-laws. We're just going to take a drive out to the hill country and just look at wildflowers. So, as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with driving around. So I would absolutely encourage people to do that.
Yeah, I think there's something about it. You get out there and just see a sunset. The sunsets have been amazing here lately. The weather's been amazing. Like you said, the wildflowers and everything popping out. And then knowing that once you get home, you got a bottle of something delicious from Jester King or some, brewery just waiting, just there. And you're going to be sitting around anyway. And your kids could still binge watch whatever in the back seat if they need to,
Right. Right.
And gas is super cheap right now. So,
oh yeah.
But okay, so that leads me to the next question. I know that the Brewers Guild here in Texas has worked on lobbying to get delivery for breweries, and gosh, I mean, I guess it just speaks to how entrenched those laws are, and how how much effort has gone into the advances that breweries have gotten in the last 8 years, 12 years, however long it's every couple of years when we have a legislative session. We've had some good things move forward, but right now, delivery would be, at least one more avenue for people to make things better. What have you heard recently, and what is I know you said I know the anticipation on it. Do you think is it a lost cause for Texas, or is there a glimmer of hope?
I think there may be a glimmer of hope. The latest word is that we're kind of in the queue to be heard by the governor's office, for our executive director and our lobbyist for the guild, the Texas Craft Brewers Guild, to be kind of heard by the governor's office on our ask, which is to be able to temporarily deliver and ship beer. The message we've got is that the governor's office is dealing with the public health crisis, which I understand. With that said, I think other states have, simultaneously pursued, kind of temporary economic freedoms and the public health issues as well. I mean, I don't know what the exact number is out of our 50 states, how many can deliver, but I think it's like half approximately. And So that is a frustration. Yeah, I mean, just in a situation right now where like, the only hope to like, at least in our case, like the only, hope to, just keep the lights on, because I mean, we're not. I mean, I've been open about that. Like we're not making money in this state. There's just absolutely zero way that we make money right now. So like to keep going, I saw the Brewers Association survey that got posted yesterday, and I think it was like 46% of respondents said, they can kind of maintain without help for like, 1 to 3 months. That's kind of where I put us as well. And so, without help, there's just no chance of, being profitable in this state where we're closed to the public. So, I guess where I'm going with that is if we could ship beer and deliver, I think there's a good chance we could probably break even, which would be huge, right? And in this type of environment, that'd be huge. So, I'm again just extremely jealous of like of my brewer friends in other states. I'm thrilled they have those rights, but really, really jealous that we don't, because I mean the margin is fantastic when you sell direct to people. I mean, that's why we and a lot of other breweries have tried to grow the on-site business through their tasting rooms and restaurants, because you achieve a 100% margin, where if you start self-distributing, you're losing about 32% of your margin. And then if you sell through a distributor, you're losing about 45% of your margin. So that takes a big chunk out of profitability real quick. So, we're not trying to upend the 3-tier system. Like that's not our goal right now. We just want to like temporarily be able to just survive.
Yeah.
So, if you want to say, hey, 60 days, 45 days, 30 days, whatever, like that's fine. Like we're not trying to, again, destroy the 3-tier system. We just want to survive.
Yeah. I've talked to some friends that are bar owners and things like that. And some of them have said that they think, now that, that restaurants can deliver alcohol with a meal, that it'll be tough for the state to say, all right, we're going to take that back. Do you think that maybe that's one of the fears that they say once the horse is out of the barn, then it's going to be tough to get that guy back in there as far as like breweries delivering?
Yes. I mean, putting myself in the shoes of, the wholesale beverage distributors in Texas, I could see why they would come to that conclusion, and share that fear. I guess I would only go back to, if there's a clear sunset, if it's clearly, will expire, then, if it's illegal, then, well, the TABC can crack down quite easily, I think, on people who are violating the law. So, just make it clear that there's a sunset on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, sorry. And then the public, I'm sure the public will be like, well, this sucks. We could have beer delivered right to our doorstep and now we can't. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like, the politicians will be just fine taking, that hit from not that the public voice doesn't matter, but I feel like that's a very survivable thing for our elected officials to deal with that griping.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with, it's everything in this situation. It all depends on timing, right? We don't, just because this whole thing is so open-ended, right. You just don't know. One, what's the new normal? When is normal going to come back, and what is that normal going to be when it gets here? Are we even going to recognize it when it gets here?
Yeah.
And so this is back to the third stage of the conversation. It's like, what is the new normal? I mean, when I look at like sporting events, re-airs of sporting events on TV and concerts where there's just people piled on top of people, it already looks foreign to me. It already looks out of place.
Yes. I guess my opinion is, I think in let's just call it, a 1 to 2 year period, I think that does continue to feel very alien to people. and will not really be the norm. I mean, I was looking at, an article on ESPN yesterday talking about like the South Korean baseball season, and, they're playing it, but, without fans in the stands. And, it's kind of what I'm expecting, if football happens this fall, that's kind of what I'm thinking or guessing would be the case as well. That it's just, not, it's just essentially a TV event. But I do think that, and granted, I'm taking a medium to long-term look at this. I do think that, once, let's just say like by 2022, and let's just say, there is a vaccine by then, I think that people's confidence will rebound pretty substantially once they know that it's, it will continue to be lethal to some percentage of the population, no doubt. But once, by and large, people feel comfortable that the healthcare system is not going to collapse and that they can get, vaccinated, I do think that the mass gatherings will return because, one, I think it comports with human nature, and two, there's just so much money tied into it that I feel like will get back.
Yeah. I think the power of the power of the dollar and what that does for so many people, because everybody's so connected. That's one thing that this really shows is like, if sports gets canceled, well, then that's a big hit on. Well, it's not just sports, it's everybody involved. TV, people going to the sporting events, people, I don't know. Has anybody talked to any sports talk radio guys? How are they coping right now? It's like there's nothing to talk about. That's got to be a super hard job, Yeah. It just everything is so connected. Like when if you can't gather in restaurants, it's like okay, well that doesn't just affect the restaurant owner. It's everybody that provides food, the people working there. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's almost an impossible task to who it doesn't affect.
Yes, I mean I feel like even in a world that is becoming more virtual all the time, especially now, I feel like, people still do like just crave human connection, and doing like a Google Hangouts beer drinking session, well, fun, and certainly fun under the circumstances. And it's funny, a lot of our employees are doing that these days. Yeah. Just still doesn't truly make up for the, face-to-face interaction. I mean, even the most plugged in people, of which, I'm probably somewhere in that range, still like does just like crave for moments where you put down the phone and you just like talk to someone and hang out and have fun and laugh and usually drink. Yes. Again, I'm kind of taking this like dual approach. Like, do I think it's going to be like that anytime soon? Not really. But then I think ultimately, like, and again, call it, 2 years. I think we will get back to that just because humans, I feel like, just need that as part of like our human condition.
Yeah. And I think, to look at the bright side of, what it'll be like on the back side of this, I think people will appreciate it even more. I think we had like going out to Jester King, on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and just seeing everybody laughing and like everybody out there. You never see a sourpuss out at your place. It's like impossible. Like, man, I don't even like goats or whatever. Yeah, it's like, you never see that guy walking around. It's always people are super positive and everybody's having fun and hey, how's it going? Sitting next to somebody that you've never met, but yet now you're 30, 40 minutes deep into a conversation with somebody you just met 10 minutes ago. And I got to take my wife's family out there, and they're not, well, like they say, they're not beer drinkers, but they had some out there and they just enjoyed they had a glass of wine. My father-in-law had a glass of wine, and it was just, you could see that it was just enjoyment, and it was just being around people and in that, place. And it's too beautiful of a thing for it not to come back. But I think, if I'm going to be super positive, I think people will appreciate it even more and how fragile it is,
Right. Yeah, that's definitely been a takeaway of mine is, you read history and you read about these like just horrific periods of time when civilization was like totally disrupted, and you think, oh, well, that's an amazing story, but you never really envision yourself in that. And granted, we're not like in the middle of a world war and no one's dropping bombs in our head, but it still is, as we know, very, very serious right now. Mm-hmm. And so, it absolutely does make you take it for granted. And so, yeah, I think, for people living through this right now, this at least like elements of this will still live on in our just fiber for a long time.
Yeah, I wonder how much the brain wrinkles of people around me, just like my poor daughters and my wife. I think, oh gosh, what stresses have I put on them and changed them for the rest of their lives? Just me being in the house all day, kind of meandering around in my robe. Because there's a lot of that, Jeffrey. I mean, I don't know if you're like me. I do a lot of meandering. I just look out the front window, like wondering, watch the breeze blow the trees a little bit, and then go to the back door and be like, huh, yeah, okay. Just watch there for a while and take a lap, maybe go up the stairs and be like, yeah, we should probably clean up here, and then go back downstairs and start all over again. I don't know. Do you do? I do a lot of meandering.
That's funny. No, I saw a clip of Larry David. It was pretty funny. He was kind of doing the same thing. Just like staring out his window.
Yeah, and in a moment I'm like, oh man, wait. And then I kind of catch myself. It's like, oh, it's been, how many hours have I been doing this? Then I look down and it's been like 40 minutes tops. It's like, oh, this is a long day. And then you get to the end of the day, it's like, where'd all the time go? I didn't get anything accomplished. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like time is just moving at a glacial pace right now. This has been like the longest 3 weeks I can never recall. I'm just like, yeah.
Well, I imagine, when you run a business, every day is something. It's always something to deal with, and, people, providing for the business, whether it's, Blacklands Malt or your hops or whatever, making sure things are where they need to be and people are where they need to be. And now that's just, there's not near as much of that. Have you taken up any like self-improvement projects or any like home improvement projects or anything since this started, or?
Yeah. Like general home organization, kind of spring cleaning, which I know a lot of people have been doing that. Aside from that though, broke out my old guitar that I don't know how to play, but figured I'd, give it a shot.
Yeah.
I hadn't, played a whole lot of video games in a very long time, but my kids have gotten into some of the Wii games, so that's actually been a blast, just playing Wii games with my kids. Nerf gun battles, that's been another kind of fun kid outlet. Just ducking behind couches in the house, and I might, probably not the safest thing, but for indoor play, but still that's been fun. And then of course, reading, it's been fun to read. And then, sorry to rattle on this topic, but then also, I feel like just, getting out and going for a jog has been really helpful too. Like just to keep the body moving.
Yeah, that's been the thing. Like last night, my wife and I, we went for a walk, and I don't know if you saw the pink moon. It was kind of pink. It was pink for a little, like for a minute, and kind of pink. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. If, depending on where you are in Houston, if you're near the ship channel, the sky's weird colors all the time anyway. But sometimes green and purples and all kinds of weird colors because of the refineries and things like that. But it was cool. Like a big old bright pink moon. I mean, I don't know. I always hear about supermoons, but I normally work at night, so I don't get to see that much of it. So those moments have been really cool.
No, absolutely, and it's been fun to see the kids just kind of we try to limit the screen time. It's impossible, of course, but we try to still like limit the screen time, and it's been fun to kind of see them get creative and how they play together. And so little moments like that have been special.
Yeah, thank God for YouTube and things like that. There's been a lot of lessons to learn and things like that. I think our school schedule, I don't know about you guys, but our school schedule with the Zoom meetings with the teachers and things, it's been busier now than it's ever been in school. So,
we've been a little behind on that a little bit. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say. My wife, she's a healthcare worker. She's a hospital pharmacist, and then me kind of trying to manage the business right now in kind of crisis mode. It's we're a little behind on our educational catch up or keep up with the kids. We're trying, but yeah, not our best effort there.
No, the fun one is when you tell the kids that the governor just said that they have to repeat this year again, and just to see, and just to see the looks on their faces. Just messing with you, man.
Yep, I did that. I think, yeah, I did that with my daughter, and yeah, she was not happy until I let her in on it.
Yeah, a little bit of torment is always fun. We taught our kids how to play Texas Hold'em, so
oh, nice.
We're definitely like, we got a lot of time to sit around, so we're gonna coach you up and then get you conditioned for like 8-hour poker sessions so you can go make some money for us. Take the money from your friends once that's allowed. But
yeah,
I don't know.
like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to figure it out day by day, and here on InterBrews, just I want to talk to people all around the state and just record this history, because all of this, everything we've talked about, what you're talking about with your kids and your family and the people that have worked at Jester King and your suppliers and the plans going forward and what you've been doing with speaking of, it would be remiss if we didn't mention some of the beers you have available currently for that online order 24/7. Anything?
Yeah.
I know that some of the stuff that normally would have waited for special days, I see that trend going around where some really fun stuff is getting released more often. So what do you, anything special you got there for curbside?
Yes. So we've got the last couple of releases, in no particular order, have been Encendia, which is a strong farmhouse ale with ancho chilies and epazote that we aged in Oaxacan mezcal barrels. That's that one I'm really, really happy with. We just, as of today, released our first ever pale lager in cans.
Wow. Okay.
Which is a new thing for us. We've been mixed culture and spontaneous only for since like 2012-ish. And as of the tail end of last year, we started to do some pure culture fermentations. And so we've so far released an English Imperial Stout that we have brewed before years ago called Black Metal, a Coffee Imperial Stout with that was supposed to be for a South by Southwest pop-up with Dark Matter Coffee out of Chicago, and then our pale lager, it's called our Unfiltered Pilsner, which I just mentioned. Fruit season's starting to get here, so Omniscience and Proselytism are strawberry barrel-aged wild ale. Atrial Rubicite is fermenting right now, so that'll be out this spring. The schedule has slowed down, but as far as like some of our, main releases that we do throughout the year, like those are still happening.
So as far as like strawberries, when are strawberries? When do you harvest strawberries? Is that starting now?
Yes. We should get them in the next like 2 weeks.
Okay. And then what follows strawberries? Like when do blackberries hit and blueberries?
Blueberries, we're late winter. So, blueberries, we call it Color 5. That's our Texas blueberry beer.
Yeah.
That's, already in bottle and conditioning as we speak.
Nice.
Blackberries, we get those from out of state. So, that's a little different. Those, will just be kind of late summer. Same with grapes. Grapes we've just really fallen in love with more and more, where we've been doing more kind of wine beer hybrids and have been so motivated by it that we've planted our own grapes, which are, now starting year number 3. We expected to take, 4 to 6 years, but we're kind of getting to the point where like it's in view of when we can start, making beer, and then also wine, with our own grapes. But yeah, as far as fruit season, we'll get stone fruit in, peaches and apricots around 4th of July ish, and then once we get into August, September, start getting those grapes in.
Yeah. Okay, that's exciting. I love it.
Yeah, me too. Fruit season's a fun time of year for us.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I do know you've got other things to do today. You can't just sit and chat with me all day. But, feel free to call back if, I'll talk about anything. But, Jeff, thank you so much for checking in and letting the people that listen to this podcast in Texas and beyond, let them know what's going on with Jester King and with you personally. And, this is an outlet that is open anytime you have something you want to update, as long, however long this goes and when it's done. And I look forward to coming out and sharing a beer with you and talking some more. And I just really appreciate you being on today.
Oh, my pleasure, Josh. And very much look forward to that when that day gets here as well. And you take care. And happy meandering around the house.
I should probably be measuring my steps, counting my steps, but anyway, I'm sure it's some sort of record. Anyway, the next Olympic event, meandering.
Right.
Meanderthon. All right. Well, Jeff Stuffings, everybody. Jester King. You can order right now 24/7 on their online ordering. Just check out their website and also the updates on social media, Facebook especially, for what's available and pickup times and all that kind of good stuff. And just take a drive out to Jester King. Fitzhugh Road, right? Fitzhugh?
That's right.
Fitzhugh Road. And Fitzhugh's right off of 290, right?
Yep, right up 290. Not far from Dripping Springs. We're 17 miles from the state capital.
Yeah, it's a beautiful drive, especially this time of year. Get out there and look at those blue bonnets and all the wildflowers and the Indian paintbrushes, and then know that at the end of your journey, there's a Jester King beer or two, or however. Are there any limits?
No, yeah, that's another thing. No limits. Buy all you want.
Okay, Jester King or 3 or 5 or 2 dozen or however much. But man, what a worthy road trip that is, and a therapeutic one too. So that's my full endorsement of a road trip to Jester King wherever you are in Texas. So Jeff, I'll let you go, and just keep on keeping on. And thank you for everything you do for Texas and for beer and just that beautiful space out there. It really is. It's beautiful in all levels, just visually, but also spiritually and everything. It's just it's a beautiful place. So thank you for what y'all do.
Oh, well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate those kind words. That's really, really good of you to say. Much appreciated.
Cool. All right, Jeff Stuffings, everybody. For Jeff, for Jester King, I am Josh. Thanks for listening. This is InterBrews.
This is InterBrews.
The preceding has been a presentation of Stewed Productions.